Karen destroyed park stone bench, fined $130,000 and shunned by the community. The park was the heart of Willow Creek, a small town where everyone knew each other's names and stories. Its stone bench, carved with the names of the town's founders, was more than just a seat. It was a monument to shared history, where lovers carved initials, children played, and elders shared tales. But on a crisp autumn evening, that sacred bench lay in ruins, and Karen Mitchell, a woman once respected, stood at the center of the storm. Karen wasn't always the villain. She had been a pillar of Willow Creek, a single mother who raised her daughter, Lily, with fierce love. She organized bake sales, led the PTA, and fought for better school funding. But over the years, bitterness crept in. Karen felt the town owed her for the sacrifices, the late nights, the endless giving. When the town council rejected her proposal to rename the park after her late father, a war veteran, something snapped. The bench, etched with names she deemed less worthy, became the target of her rage. That evening, under the amber glow of dusk, Karen drove to the park with a sledgehammer she'd bought on impulse. Her heart pounded, not with fear but with a twisted sense of justice. She swung, and the first crack echoed like a gunshot. The stone crumbled under her blows, each swing fueled by years of unspoken resentment. She didn't notice the crowd gathering, parents, children, even old Mr. Thompson with his cane, until it was too late. The bench was rubble, and Karen was panting, her hands trembling, her face streaked with tears. Enter Ethan, a young landscaper who tended the park's flowers. He wasn't supposed to be there that night, but he'd stayed late to plant tulips for the spring festival. Ethan, with his quiet demeanor and kind eyes, had always admired Karen's tenacity. He saw her not as a villain but as a woman broken by grief. "Karen, stop!" he shouted, running toward her. His voice was soft but firm, cutting through her haze. She froze, the sledgehammer slipping from her hands. For a moment, their eyes met their defiance crumbling into shame, his shock softening into pity. The crowd wasn't so forgiving. Whispers turned to shouts. "She's lost it!" cried Mrs. Larson, clutching her toddler. "That bench was our history," yelled Mr. Thompson, his voice shaking. Karen tried to explain her father, the rejection, the pain, but her words drowned in the crowd's anger. By morning, the story had spread like wildfire. The town council fined her $130,000 to replace the bench, an antique crafted by a long-dead artisan. Worse, the community shunned her. Neighbors avoided her gaze, shops refused her service, and Lily, now in college, stopped answering her calls. But there was a twist no one saw coming. Ethan, the quiet landscaper, had a secret. He was the grandson of one of the bench's carvers, a man who'd poured his soul into the stone. Ethan could have condemned Karen, could have led the charge against her. Instead, he visited her at her empty house, where she sat surrounded by unpacked boxes, her life unraveling. "I know what it's like to lose someone," he said, his voice steady. His mother had died young, and he'd watched his grandfather grieve through his craft. "But you didn't just break a bench. You broke trust." Ethan's words hit harder than the fine. Karen sobbed, not for the money or the shunning, but for the realization of what she'd done. Ethan didn't stop there. He started a quiet campaign, not to defend Karen's actions but to humanize her pain. He spoke at the town meeting, sharing stories of his grandfather's grief and Karen's loss. "She was wrong," he said, "but she's one of us. Don't we owe her a chance to make it right?" His words stirred unease. Some softened, others hardened. The council agreed to let Karen work off part of the fine by helping rebuild the park. But the shunning persisted. Months passed, and Karen worked silently, planting flowers beside Ethan. They rarely spoke, but a quiet bond grew. One day, as they knelt in the dirt, Karen whispered, "Why did you help me?" Ethan paused, his hands in the soil. "Because my grandfather believed in second chances. He carved that bench to bring people together, not tear them apart." Karen's eyes welled up. She'd lost everything: her reputation, her daughter's trust, her place in the town, but Ethan's kindness was a flicker of hope. The new bench was unveiled in spring, a simpler version of the original. Karen stood at the back of the crowd, invisible to most. Ethan caught her eye and nodded, a small gesture of solidarity. But the town's forgiveness was slow. Lily came home for the ceremony but didn't speak to her mother. As the crowd dispersed, Karen lingered by the bench, tracing the new carvings names of the town's children, including Lily's. She'd suggested it, a silent apology. But some wounds cut too deep. Karen moved away that summer, unable to bear the town's lingering scorn. Ethan stayed, tending the park, but he never forgot her. The bench stood as a reminder not just of history, but of how quickly trust could shatter and how hard it was to mend. Willow Creek moved on, but the scar remained. What do you think? Can a community forgive a moment of rage, or does justice demand a harsher price?